All right, okay, are we ready? Are we ready? I'm not. I am not ready to film this video because I am notoriously known for not being the best at talking about my favorite books, and somehow I still think that it's a great idea to tell you guys about all of the books that I gave 5 stars in 2025. So, hello my friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to your new favorite place on the internet. My name is Bella, and I don't really give 5 stars that easily. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But just to give you an idea, out of the 90 plus books that I've read in the year so far, I've only given 5 stars to less than 20 of them. In my opinion, that's not that many 5 stars, so I feel like when I give a book 5 stars, you can trust that that book has everything that I needed in order for me to enjoy it to the fullest. And I thought, hey, this is a perfect way of recommending books to you guys while also trying my best to talk about all of the books that made this year as good as it was, because I found some new favorites. I found books that blew my mind. I read books that I had never read before, obviously, but it's kind of like, you know when you read new books, but they feel like books that you've read before? I didn't really get that feeling this year because, you know, I definitely dipped my toes into different waters in 2025. And because of that, I have some new favorite books that I really want to talk to you guys about. So sit down, enjoy, relax. These next, I don't know, how long do you think we're gonna go for? Maybe 30 minutes of me just discussing all of the books that I've given 5 stars to in 2025. But before we get into my 5-star reads, there are a couple of honorable mentions that I would just like to talk to you guys very briefly, because even though they're not 5 stars, they came really close to being one. The very first honorable mention that we have here, it's The Golden Raven, written by Nora Sakavic. Now this, oh my goodness, this book filled me with so much love and happiness, but also so much trauma, and it was so intense. But of course, when you're reading The Foxhole Court, or honestly any book that Nora Sakavic has ever written, you know what you're in for, okay? Especially if you've made it up to The Golden Raven, you already know that these characters are going to go through some intense character development, and they're going to suffer through some of the worst experiences that humans can ever go through, and The Golden Raven is no exception. The Sunshine Court is a spin-off from The Foxhole Court, and in this series we're following Jeremy Knox and John Moreau. John is basically trying to rebuild his life after the events of the Foxhole Court, and he joins Jeremy's team of Exy, and obviously John is not used to being in a place that is so positive and happy and healthy and doesn't use torture as a way of training. So it's definitely taken John a lot to get used to this new reality, and we're basically following these two characters and their group of friends and their Exy team as they're trying to handle what their new life means. This wasn't a complete 5-star, but it's still really up there. I literally read this in like 1 or 2 days because I just could not put it down. And if you guys haven't read The Foxhole Court, I recommended it a couple of videos back, but if you still haven't started it, this is your second sign that you have to. So yep, Golden Raven, honorable mention. The next honorable mention is The Gambler and Other Stories, written by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. I talked about this in a couple of videos back, and this was, in my November wrap-up, of course. So if you guys haven't seen that video, I would 10 out of 10 would recommend it. So I read this book in November, and I think it's safe to say that this is one of the best short story collections of Dostoyevsky that I've had the pleasure of reading. This was a buddy read with Maraid, and we just had so much fun reading these stories and dissecting these characters and the craziness that they get up to and the moral corruptness that they represent. This was such a good read, but again, it didn't really reach the 5-star rating, so honorable mention it is. The last honorable mention that I have for you guys here today, you may be no stranger to this next book, and this one is Behind the Painting. Now listen, I really truly feel like this book does not need an introduction. I read this for my 24-hour readathon, and I literally sobbed my eyes out. I had a headache the next day. It was just a really intense pain in my head and in my heart and in my soul. This is such a short book, but it packs one of the most emotional punches that I've ever received in my life as a reader. Unfortunately, it didn't reach the 5-star rating, but it still came oh so close. I feel like I'd be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't mention this honorably because it deserves to be here. Even if it's as an honorable mention, it still deserves to be mentioned in this best books of 2025. So now that I've talked about all of my honorable mentions, I think it's time to dive into my actual 5-star rating list. I organized these in the order in which I read them, and I started off 2025 with the best book imaginable. Like, imagine starting your year with a 5 out of 5 star, with a brand new favorite book. This was actually my January Patreon buddy read, and this book was The Sword of Kaigen, written by Wang. Oh my goodness, how can I even begin to describe how incredible this book was? In The Sword of Kaigen, we're following two main characters. We have Misaki, who is a former warrior, but ever since marrying into the Matsuda family, she's become mostly just a housewife. She's never forgotten her training, but now she's mostly focused on raising her son, Mamoru. Mamoru is the other point of view that we have. It's such an interesting blend of perspectives because we have Misaki, who is experiencing her own form of injustices and prejudices, and then we have Mamoru, which is this 14-year-old kid, and he's training to become the next warrior of the family, and there's this war going on, and they have to protect the empire, but then there's like this whole secret that nobody is really telling them the truth. Like, there is definitely something that the government is hiding from them, and suddenly our main characters start to question if fighting for the empire is actually the right thing to do. The story itself is so fascinating and fun to read, but also I think what really carries this book is the characters. I'm so sorry to say this, like, I know I sound like a broken record, pero honestamente, the best thing of this book is the characters, the character arcs, the journeys that they all go through, the things that they learn the hard way, all of the hardships that they experience along the way. It makes them who they are, and it's so brilliant to see. It's so amazing to see these characters come undone and then become even greater than they were before. Wang's writing is just so brilliant, okay? It's one of the best writing styles. It's one of the best authors that I spent time with this year. I also read their other book, which is Blood Over Bright Haven, and it was incredible. Maybe not as good as Sword of Kaigen, but I still had so much fun, and I loved every single second that I was with these characters and this world. And honestly, I would read like 3 more books of these characters. It's so rich and fun to be in this world. Like, yeah, if I were in this world, I would probably die in the first week of being here because, one, I don't do well with cold places, and they literally live in a snowy mountain. And 2, I could not defend myself for the life of me. So even though I wouldn't survive in the world of the Sword of Kaigen, I wish I could spend so much more time with these characters and this world because it was just so good. And this is how I started 2025. Like, literally, the bar for the other books that I was going to read was so high thanks to The Sword of Kaigen. The next book that I gave 5 stars to was Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, Volume 4. I didn't give 5 stars to any other volume except Volume 4, and I think that it's because Wei Wuxian's character development really shines through in this volume. Like, the things that they experience, the things that they have to go through, it was so heart-wrenching and emotional and intense. There's just so much going on, and it really feels like everything is coming to a head and things are either going to go really, really well or really, really badly. And I was at the edge of my seat. Every single page, I was just like, I need more, I want more, I love what's happening right now. This is so intense and so fun. I never want to leave this world. In Volume 4, we really dive deep into Wei Wuxian's past, and that makes the present storyline hit even that much harder. Characters you thought you understood suddenly become so much more complicated and complex, and that makes for a much more interesting reading experience. And that's what happened to me when I was reading Volume 4. It's a mix of mystery, humor, tragedy, sexual tension, like all of the elements that I love in Danmei novels can be found in Volume 4 of Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. Now, if you would like to know what Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation is, please don't ask me, like, I'm so sorry, but trying to explain the plot of Danmei novels is the bane of my existence. I just cannot do it, because they're just so convoluted, and I feel like you need to give so many details in order for anything to make sense. But basically, oh my god, okay, like we have this guy, you know what I mean? And then he's like this really evil, demonic sorcerer. He gets killed, but then because of a spell that somebody else makes, he gets to be resurrected. And then when he resurrects, we find out that he's not actually as evil and as demonic as everybody is painting him out to be. So now that he's, you know, come back to life in a sense, he's trying to get his life back, and he meets people from his past that he's kind of scared are going to recognize him and are going to try to kill him again. Pero yeah, does that make sense? I feel like that does not make sense. I feel like if I heard that, I'd just be like, okay, that sounds cool, but I'm never gonna read that. But please, oh my goodness, please give Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation a second chance, or like a chance. Period. I actually tried to read this series a couple of years ago, and I gave up on volume 1 because the story just felt so confusing and convoluted, and I was like, I don't want to read this. But then I gave it another chance, and I had the time of my life. Literally gave one of the volumes 5 out of 5 stars, and then the volumes before this were like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, please give Grandmaster a chance. The next books that I gave a 5-star rating were Kaiju number 8. So listen, this year I really said Kaiju number 8 is going to become my new manga series. And I wasn't kidding, because I watched both seasons this year. I absolutely adored them. And I've been reading the volumes as they've been coming out, and every single one just keeps getting better and better and better. Like, it just won't stop getting better. I'm honestly scared. How much better can it get? I just don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if this series breaks my scale. It's just that good. Especially starting in volume 10, I feel like things start to get really intense after this volume because things are finally coming to a head. The war against the kaiju is becoming a lot more intense and a lot more high stakes. And I also talked about this in my November wrap-up. I'm sorry to keep bringing it up, but these are books that I've read recently, so they're still fresh in my mind. We are following our main character Kafka, and he's like your usual stereotypical shonen main character where he's kind of funny, but he's also kind of powerful. He has this new power that he doesn't really know how to control, so we're following him along the journey of him trying to figure out how to use his newly acquired powers in order to save his friends. We also have such a good feeling of found family as well in this shonen manga. It was just so good, okay? I always have such a fun time when I'm reading Kaiju number 8. The drawing style is also just so incredible. If you guys haven't picked it up yet, I would highly recommend that you read Kaiju number 8 just because it is so incredible. It's so incredible. Characters, the story, the stakes, the action scenes, it's just so cool. It's literally so cool. And it's already over, so you don't have to be scared that you're going to be committing to like a 100 volume manga series. This one is just gonna have like maybe 15 or 16, so you're good to commit. You're okay. This next one is one of those books that just honestly caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting this one to become a new favorite, but every single time that a new volume comes out, I'm just like, okay, I'm prepared for my life to change. I'm prepared to learn some valuable lessons about life and the meaning of life, what's truly important in living and being human, and etc. That book is Vinland Saga. So this is book 6. Yes, it is. And as you can see, this is like a deluxe edition. This has a couple of volumes included in this edition. After years of being defined by revenge, our main character Thorfinn is forced to face all of the things that he's done and everything that he's lost along the way. Vinland Saga starts off as this manga series filled with really intense battle scenes, and there's always so much violence and action, and there's always like 2 characters fighting, there's a war going on. But as you start to read more volumes, you start to realize there's been a shift in the narrative. Suddenly, it's not focused on the violence, it's not focused on the rage of our characters and their revenge or the vengeance that they want to take on their enemies. It's now more focused on how to find peace and how to choose peace when everybody else around you is choosing war and violence. I think that a lot of the reflections that our characters make in these latter volumes can be so important and prevalent in our own lives. And I know personally, I've taken a lot of learnings from reading Vinland Saga, and it's just so incredible, the shift, again, like the switch up that the series made, because it really truly, like, it kind of reels you in with the violence and the action of these Vikings trying to take over the world and the continent. And then before you know it, you are ensnared by these characters and their inner lives and everything that they have to go through and experience. And it's such a beautiful and transformative experience. Like, Vinland Saga, for sure, absolutely one of the best manga series that I've ever read. So for sure, I'm going to be giving this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I gave 5 out of 5 stars, I don't actually own it, and it's one of my biggest regrets of 2025, having not picked up a physical copy of Tress of the Emerald Sea, written by Brandon Sanderson, because this was one of my Patreon buddy reads, and I had so much fun reading this story. I don't really read that many Brandon Sanderson books. I feel like the only series that I've ever completed from him has been the Mistborn series. Well, actually, I only read the first 3 books. I know that he's written more books in that world, but I only read the first 3. But this one I was interested in because it's a standalone. You don't have to read any other book in order to fully understand it. It just looked so fun and cozy and whimsical, and honestly, I was in the perfect mood for that book. I think, again, I read it in a handful of days because I wanted to spend all of my available time with Tress and all of the adventures that she got up to. So Tress is basically this small town girl, and she has never really left her town, her family, anything at all. But suddenly the boy she loves gets kidnapped, and she's like, I'm gonna go get him. I'm gonna go save him. I'm gonna be the hero in this story. And she doesn't disappoint. She really doesn't. She's one of the best heroines that I've ever read from. She's so fun to be with. She's so funny and clever, and this whole book in general was just so warm and inventive as well. It was just such a unique story, and I feel like everything that they got up to, because obviously they have to sail the seas, they basically become pirates, and it's just so fun and imaginative, and I truly had so much fun reading Tress of the Emerald Sea. Like, I honestly cannot remember the last time that I had that much fun reading a book. So yeah, this had to be a 5 out of 5 star. It was like the perfect blend of adventure and emotions and character development and character relationships, literally everything that I love in one book. And that's why it has 5 stars, obviously. Okay, this next one, I am so happy that it made it into this list, because this was a recommendation from my best friend, from my favorite person in the entire world. You may have heard of her. If you're on the Discord server, then you definitely know her. Her name's Sunny, and one of her all-time favorite books is A Ladder to the Sky, written by John Boyne. Now, this one is really interesting because she did recommend it to me with the disclaimer that I was going to hate the main character. And she was right about that. I have never hated a man as much as I hate Maurice Swift. This man can, ay Dios mío, like, ojalá que se le pinchen tres gomas de tipo. I wish that Maurice Swift, if he were a real person, I hope that his pillow is never cold. I hope that he always has hair in his food. He is one of the most despicable human beings that will ever exist in the literature world. Obviously, he's not a real person, thank goodness, because if he were, well, that would just not be nice. A Ladder to the Sky is the story of this man called Maurice Swift, and we're following him as he makes the most awful decisions. He only looks out for himself. He literally, oh my god, I can't say that, it's a spoiler. Like, I did see it coming when it happened. I don't want to tell you guys, but it's literally one of those moments that are going to have you grabbing your head and being like, I can't believe he just did that. I can't believe that woman stares. I feel like you guys can figure out what happened, but this is the type of man that is not scared of killing, stealing, taking ownership of other people's works in order to advance his own agenda. This book spans decades, and it's also told from multiple perspectives, so you can see how other people see Maurice Swift. And it just shows you how far someone is willing to go to achieve greatness. It's dark, diabolical, incredibly smart and conniving, and also so frustrating, but so brilliant. It was just incredible. Again, I have never hated a man as much as I have hated Maurice Swift. And yet, I cannot give this book anything but a 5-star because it is just that good. Okay, this next one, I think this is the first book of 2025 that actually had me bawling. This book is written by Fredrik Backman, and Fredrik Backman is known to be the type of author that's going to make you cry your eyes out. So it's no surprise that his most recent release, My Friends, is yet another book that's a tearjerker for sure. This book is gentle and emotional and tender. It speaks about friendship and the importance of having a group of friends that's always going to be there for you no matter what. It's a novel that feels both hopeful and heartbreaking at the same time. I don't know how Backman does that, where he can describe such tragic and heartbreaking situations and people's stories, and yet you still feel like this flicker of hope in your heart, and you're still rooting for these characters to have their own happy endings, and maybe in a way they do, even though it's a bittersweet ending, or even though not all of the characters that you wanted got the ending that you would have wanted for them. Fredrik Backman has really truly cracked the case on what it means to be human and what it means to share these tender moments that bring people closer together. He writes the types of characters that feel so real, that feel like your mom, that feel like your best friends, that feel like people that you could love and that are a part of your life. Or actually, Fredrik Backman writes characters that feel like yourself. Like sometimes I'm reading his books and I feel like I'm reading about myself in these situations. And it's such a particular and unique experience. It's something that I only feel when I read Backman. And when I read My Friends, which was also a Patreon buddy read, like, oh my goodness, the Patreon buddy reads this year were off the charts. My Friends is this story about a group of people in a small community and the ways in which they shape each other's lives and how they change each other for the better, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This next one is a manga. I'm sorry, but I read some really incredible manga this year, and I need to talk to you guys about it, okay? So like, just bear with me. This next one is Alice in Borderland. Oh my goodness. Okay, I've read the first 3 volumes. This is such a crazy concept because it's basically like this group of teenagers and they hate their lives. They're always just kind of like, I wish I lived somewhere else. I wish I had a different life. I just wish I wasn't here. And suddenly they wake up and they're in this alternate universe where there's like this game that they have to play in order to advance or like gain points. But the thing is, if you lose, you die. Because these games, they are so... I don't even know how to explain it to you, but basically they're life or death, and you have to play in order to win, and sometimes you have to kill in order to win and stay alive. Even though the main focus is on the games and how diabolical they can be and how evil they can become or how creatively torturous they are, this also focuses on the characters and how they're slowly learning things about themselves and figuring out that maybe they're stronger than they gave themselves credit for. So yeah, we have some action, we have some violence, but we also have some character development. We also have some emotional moments between these characters. And again, a perfect blend of action, adventure, and emotional character development. That's the perfect recipe for me. This next one needs no introduction. It's Don't Let the Forest In, written by C.G. Drews. Again, this was a Patreon buddy read. This was my October Patreon buddy read. And the fact that I have exclusive vlogs for most of these books brings me so much happiness because I will always remember my experience reading brand new favorite books. And that's honest, that's such a miracle to me. That's such a gift to myself. Don't Let the Forest In. It's haunting. It's atmospheric. It's this YA fantasy about this boy who has some demons in his closet, or more accurately, he has some monsters in his... Sorry, I'm like trying to find a way to talk about this book without spoiling anything about it because I truly believe that that is the best way to go into this book. If you know absolutely nothing except just like maybe the general vibes, then you're going to have the time of your life reading C.G. Drews's Don't Let the Forest In. I said that really weirdly right now. C.G. Drews's Don't Let the Forest In. We have these 2 boys, we have a forest that is haunted, that is brimming with monsters, and Thomas and Andrew have to work together in order to save the school and protect the people that they love, which actually is each other. So there we go. But there's also like so much more going on that I'm obviously not going to get into because again, spoilers, and I really don't want to spoil this for you. This book definitely has some of the best writing that I've read all year. C.G. Drews, I think this is is actually their debut novel. And if this is what they're starting with, I am so excited. I'm so excited to see what else they're gonna come up with, because this was just such a beautiful and haunting and atmospheric read. It's like one of the best books that I've read this year, for sure, absolutely, hands down. Next up, we have a romance. I love myself a good romance. I just feel like I don't read enough romance, but I actually adore reading romance. The next books that I gave 5 out of 5 stars were A Sign of Affection. I read all of these volumes in my 24-hour readathon when I needed a pick-me-up, or when I needed a reminder that there's still happiness and happy endings in this world after I read Behind the Painting. In A Sign of Affection, we're following these two characters and their love story as they get to know each other, as they're coming of age and learning what they like, what they dislike, what they want to do with the rest of their lives, their dreams and passions and hopes and wishes for the future. We're literally just seeing these two kids. I mean, they're not kids because they are in college, but they just feel like kids because they're so adorable and cute, and all you want to do is hug them and just be like, be together, have the best time of your life. Don't let anybody get in between you, because what you have is so beautiful and pure and heartwarming. It really does wonders to your soul to read A Sign of Affection. So if you're looking for a romance manga that's going to change your life, I would 100% recommend A Sign of Affection. The next book that I gave 5 out of 5 stars is actually another book that I read for my 24-hour readathon, and that book is Katabasis, written by R.F. Kuang. I mean, I think the tabs speak for themselves. Look at the amount of tabs that I have in my copy of Katabasis. This is actually like a crazy amount, but honestly, it was just such a fascinating experience, because we're following Alice as she descends into hell in order to look for her professor, because she desperately needs a recommendation letter from him. But Alice isn't the only one who goes into hell looking for their professor. We also have Peter, who is basically Alice's academic rival, go into hell as well to... Actually, he doesn't need a recommendation letter. He kind of just goes... Well, he has his own reasons, okay? He has his own motives for going into hell. Personally, it was really interesting for me to read Katabasis because I had recently read The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, and obviously there are so many references to Dante Alighieri's version or concept of Inferno and Purgatory, and having those concepts fresh in my mind and then reading Katabasis and seeing him being referenced and being talked about, it was like, oh my god, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I can understand this conversation. And it was just really fun to be able to be a part of that conversation. Obviously, I wasn't a part of the conversation. It just kind of felt like I was in on it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's necessary to read The Divine Comedy if you want to read Katabasis, but it definitely helps. Like, it gives you a lot of context, if you will. I will say, Alice is a little bit of, she's a little bit insufferable, if you will. Like, she's not as bad as Maurice Swift from A Ladder to the Sky, but she's not my favorite main character at all. Like, sometimes she can get a little bit annoying. If she were a real person, we would not be friends. Like, she's the type of person that I try to avoid if possible. But thankfully, that didn't take away from my enjoyment of this book, because sometimes there are some main characters that I hate and it ruins the entire book for me. But I think that Alice is supposed to be a little bit annoying. I think that she's made that way on purpose. At this point, I would trust R.F. Kuang with anything that she puts out. Apparently, she's writing a love story for next year. It's called Taipei Story, and it's already a 5-star in my books. Literally every single book that she's written, except for, ¿cómo se llama? The Burning God. Every single book that she's written, except for The Burning God, I've given 5 out of 5 stars. So honestly, it was not surprising to me that I gave Katabasis the same rating. This next book, it was actually technically a reread, but I've been wanting to reread this book for years now, and I just knew that I needed to dedicate a special time for this book because it's one of those books that I will forever consider one of my all-time favorites. I knew that when I reread it, I would want to spend so much time with it, annotating it, analyzing it, and that is exactly what I did when I picked up Frankenstein, the 1818 text. Look at the amount of tabs and tell me that I did not love this book. Like, just look at it. It's just an incredible amount. And honestly, this book deserves no less. There's so much to think about. Mary Shelley just knows. She just knows, okay? She knows, period. I read Frankenstein years ago, and the first time it was also a 5-star, so it was no surprise that I gave this 5 out of 5 stars as well. I don't really think that I need to explain what Frankenstein is about, but in case you may need a reminder, we're following this would-be doctor that's called Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein. He tries his hand at playing God, and he creates this creature, he creates this being. He is able to recreate life out of different body pieces that he picked up in different graveyards. And so ensues one of the most beautiful yet tragic stories of life and the human condition and what it means to create something and to have responsibility over another human being, and what happens when you don't take ownership of those responsibilities. What happens when you don't want to accept the consequences of your horrible choices. It's an incredible insight into the human condition and what it means to be human and what truly makes us human, what makes us be who we are. Like, what is our soul made up of? It was just so incredible. It was just so good. Okay, like don't get me started on Frankenstein. I could go on and on about Frankenstein. Definite, no other option available. 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I gave a 5 out of 5 star rating was Moan by Junji Ito. Now this is a horror manga. I think I read this last month. And it was just, honestly, it's one of Junji Ito's best short story collections because they're so eerie and dark. And I truly believe that this is one of the darkest short story collections that he's come out with, because these stories just delve into some really dark and intense topics. As a fan of horror manga myself, I had the time of my life. Not my camera blinking. Don't be scared of Junji Ito. It's fine. He's a babe. He's like so nice, I swear.
Many minutes later.
As I was saying, Moan by Junji Ito, it was such an incredible yet traumatizing yet spectacular reading experience, and I would 10 out of 10 recommend. Like, if you don't know where to start with Junji Ito, this is a great contender if you can find it. The last book that I've given 5 out of 5 stars in the year of our Lord 2025 is no other than You Should Be So Lucky, written by Sebastian. I literally read this, I think in the first few days of December. I could be so wrong about that, actually. I read this recently and I am still thinking about it because it was so fun. It was so cute. This is a queer historical romance, and we're following this baseball player, we're following this reporter as they begin this unlikely friendship because they have something in common, and it's that they're both gay. They start off as friends and then they start to become something more, and it's just so heartwarming and tender, and it's so funny. I love Sebastian's writing because it can be emotional, but it's also so funny, and it doesn't take itself seriously, but when it needs to get serious, it gets serious, and I love that. I love that romance books can have both romance and also commentary on the social injustices that these people had to go through in the 1960s. We also have Grumpy Sunshine, which is one of my all-time favorite tropes. We have a slow burn as well. Honestly, it didn't feel that much of a slow burn. It just felt like a realistic love story. I just love romances like this, okay? Like, they give us everything. They give us everything and a little bit more after that. And I just really appreciate the way Sebastian makes these characters feel so authentic and genuine. Like, I really truly love that. So of course I had no other choice but to give this a 5 out of 5 star rating. I can't hold all of them, I'm so sorry, I'm just a girl. But basically these were all of the books that I gave 5 out of 5 stars in 2025. Okay, no, I need to put this down, this is so uncomfortable. Those were all of the books that I've given 5 out of 5 stars. I can be pretty picky when it comes to giving books a 5 out of 5 star rating, so I thought it would be pretty special to share with you guys all of the books that have, you know, earned that honor in 2025. So hopefully you got some book recommendations from this list, because these books are books that I would swear by. These books are books that I would forever and always recommend to you guys. So yeah, let me know if you got any new book recommendations from this list. Also, I would love to know what some of your 5-star books have been this year, because I feel like the comment section can truly become the ultimate book recommendations list of 2025. And it would just be really cool cool if we can get that started. So if you have any books that you've given 5 out of 5 stars to in this year and you'd like to talk about it in the comments down below, please feel free, because I feel like I would have the time of my life reading through your comments. So thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that you enjoyed. And I also have a Patreon where I post exclusive content. I host readathons, reading sprints, and a monthly book club. So if that sounds like anything that you'd be interested in, the link is down below. As always, I would love to have you join my community. And without further ado, I will see you tomorrow for Bookmas Day 12, the last day of Bookmas. Oh my goodness, how are we already here? That's kind of crazy and scary. But let's focus on the fact that Bookmas Day 11 is complete. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all so very much. And I will see you tomorrow. Oh my God. Bye.
Hey Jimmy, you nice. Keep going.